If you play in a Dynasty league, you're either headed for the finals or you're looking ahead to next year. And some Dynasty owners have been looking ahead to next year for most of this year. Whether this was a planned rebuild or your team just didn't come through in the end, either way, you know with Dynasty, you always have a rookie draft where you can reload. But why wait? What if I told you there are some players that could be on the waiver wire in your league that could help your team for next year, and you can pick them up right now? We've been playing Beat the Breakout for redraft leagues all year. Now it's time to do it for Dynasty. Stash these guys if you can. I'm going to talk about these players in order of preference if they are available, but my last couple of picks might be the sneakiest stashes. They're guys that are definitely likely to be available on your waiver wire no matter how deep your league is. Now, the best type of player to stash in a Dynasty league is going to be a rookie wide receiver, so let's start there. How about Trey Palmer in Tampa Bay? He's already been serving as his team's number 3 receiver all season long. He's third on the team among receivers with 51 targets and 29 receptions. He's got a pair of touchdowns, and despite not really being a big player, he's been targeted a fair bit in the end zone. Here's what makes him so interesting. Mike Evans, monster year. Obviously, the connection with Baker Mayfield is real, but he's a free agent. And sure, Tampa might like to have him back and keep him as a career Buccaneer, and I'm sure Baker Mayfield will lobby for that, and Evans might just want to stay where he is, but Evans might also want to go somewhere else, get a bigger payday, play for a different team, have a better chance to win another Super Bowl. And there were a lot of rumors about Evans maybe going to the Jets. If Aaron Rodgers pushes for him, he's probably going to get his way. So all told, if Evans doesn't stay in Tampa, Trey Palmer is going to have to take on a bigger role. He may not be the number 2 guy. I'm sure they'll replace Evans with somebody else, but Palmer could see an uptick in targets. You'd like to say that an underutilized rookie, could make a leap in year 2. Well, this is a guy who actually has a lot of experience and has gotten on the field every game, so there's a big chance he makes a leap in year 2. Now, the next player, not so much, but lots of opportunity here for Andre Iosivas in Cincinnati. There hasn't been much room for a receiver like him to move up because Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, all in front of him. And that's why Iosivas hasn't done much this season. He hasn't caught more than 1 pass in any game. In fact, he has 6 different games with exactly 1 catch. But here's the thing, you might know this, T. Higgins set for free agency. There's a good chance the Bengals might let Higgins walk because he's going to want to get paid. They've already paid through the nose just to keep Burrow. They also have guys like Jamar Chase and other players they need to keep under contract. They might just not think it's worth it to keep Higgins. Tyler Boyd, also a free agent. So could this team turn to this late 6th round pick and see if he can earn a chance to be number 2 or 3 target? It's possible. He wasn't a very high prospect coming into the NFL draft because he played in Princeton, but he has great measurables, speed across the board. He's a guy who's a playmaker, hasn't really gotten the chance to shine, but maybe next year is the year. Either way, the upside is there. And look, honestly, if it's Burrow or even with Jake Browning now, you got to feel pretty good about his opportunity to shine in this offense. Let's go with another rookie receiver who could also benefit from some more targets opening up. That's Tyler Scott in Chicago. Now, Scott's a guy I liked a lot during the pre-draft process. He's just a playmaker. He's got that yak ability. He's shifty. He's a guy who can make things happen when he gets the ball in his hands. He just hasn't gotten the ball in his hands very much this year because, Chicago's pass offense hasn't been great. And when it has been, it's just been DJ Moore. Now, there's a whole debate here that could be had between, is Justin Fields the problem? Is Justin Fields the answer? Is Justin Fields going to be there next year? I have no idea. But I do know it's either going to be Justin Fields or they're going to spend a really high draft pick and get a stud quarterback, maybe like Caleb Williams. I, for one, don't think Fields is the issue. And so either way, you've got to feel good about the potential of this passing game. I do think there's a good chance that Luke Getsy, the offense coordinator, is gone because a lot of people think he's the problem. Look, whether head coach Matt Eberflus is still there, a whole nother issue. The players seem to like him. The defense has been good. I think it may be the OC who gets the axe here. If so, we could see this offense open up more. Scott entering year 2, maybe with a better chance in an offense that's a little bit more dynamic, but also Darnell Mooney, he's entering free agency, had a disappointing season. Scott was a 3rd-round pick. This team is going to want to see what he can do, and I know they have a lot of money that they could spend in free agency along with those draft picks that they have. But I don't see wide receiver being their top priority here. They're going to want some more offensive linemen to protect whoever the quarterback is. And you're going to want to keep an eye on Scott, or if you are thinking about stashing him, do it now, because just in week 15, coming off his best game of the season, 49 yards on 3 catches. I want to talk about one more rookie receiver and also a former Cincinnati Bearcat. That would be Tyler Scott's teammate, Trey Tucker. Now, Tucker made a big splash just this past week because he scored twice in that rout against the Chargers. You might think chasing a one-game outlier, especially in a crazy game like that, would be foolish. But what if I told you that I have already mentioned Trey Tucker in this very series several weeks ago? And I stand by what I said, which is now that there's a coaching change and a quarterback change for the Raiders, you actually get to look at other guys besides just Davante Adams and Jakobi Meyers. In the first 7 games with the McDaniels-Jimmy G combo at coach and quarterback, Trey Tucker got a total of 7 targets in 7 games. In the 6 games since that change, he's gotten 16 targets. In fact, he had 1 game alone where he had a total of 7 targets. And then we see this past week, getting those end zone looks, scoring touchdowns. It's obvious that they're actually going to use Tucker a little bit here. Now, as it stands, Tucker's not going to be more than the number 3 guy because, Davante Adams. And Jakobi Meyers has been good. But Tucker brings a different element than those guys. He's the deep threat. He's the speedster. He's averaging 20 yards per reception on the season. I don't think Tucker has the ability to transform into a number 1 guy, a top target in any offense. No, that's not what I'm expecting here. But we're looking at deep dynasty stashes. It's a guy who could be a playmaker, a guy you can throw in a lineup, somebody who has that explosive element. Now, if you want some of that, but at running back, let's go back here to Israel Abanikanda. If you've been watching the Endgame for the past year and you followed anything we said about rookies, preseason, the mock drafts, you know that Chris and I were fans. Izzy has all the ability in the world, just needed a shot, and he hasn't got a shot. Of course not, because the Jets decided to sign Dalvin Cook, and they have Breece Hall. One thing I'm pretty sure of is that Dalvin Cook won't be around next year. He had a 1-year deal, and there's no way that anyone could say he came close to earning what he made on this 1-year deal. Averaging 3.2 yards per carry as a Jet. And let me tell you this, Breece Hall is going to be the guy. We know this. Breece Hall is a great, talented running back. This offense has just been horrible, and I don't just mean the passing offense and the quarterback. Breece Hall has looked like he's been running in mud over the past several weeks, and I hate to say that, well, if you take away this, but really, with Breece Hall, other than that first game in that very early portion of week 1 where he had that long 83-yard run, you take away his 2 longest runs, 83-yarder and a 72-yarder, he's averaging 3.2 yards per carry, which is the same as Dalvin Cook. He's had multiple games where he's averaging less than 3 yards a pop. So when you look at the fact that Izzy, well, he's barely touched the ball and 8 carries and he's only gotten 18 yards, it's not hard to figure out why, because this Jets offensive line is terrible. But next year, Cook will be gone. The offensive line better be much improved. Aaron Rodgers probably will be back. You're talking about the backup, number 2 guy to Breece Hall, who, granted, is still going to be clearly the workhorse here, but has his share of injury history. There's some upside here with Abanikanda, and he's got that same explosive ability to rip off long runs. So there aren't too many running backs I would go out and stash in Dynasty. I think Abanikanda is the number 1, and especially if you do have Breece Hall, highly recommend it. And in a very similar situation, I'm going to look to New England. Bear with me. But Kevin Harris for the Patriots. Very similar situation here, not just the same division, same type of team, which has been just awful, especially on offense. Zeke is the starting running back while Ramondre is hurt. Zeke is a free agent after this year. I don't know that they'll be keeping Ezekiel Elliott on a longer-term deal. Ramondre Stevenson will be the guy if he's back next year and he's healthy, but they're going to need somebody behind him because Ramondre definitely had his share of injuries this year. Now, we didn't even know who was behind either of these guys because it was only 2 running backs who touched the ball all season. In week 15, we saw Kevin Harris actually get on the field after being elevated from the practice squad, had 25 yards on 4 carries, and scored a touchdown. Now, that by itself doesn't really mean much. We're looking long-term. We're looking at Dynasty. But here, the fact that he could be the number 2 running back heading into next season because there are a lot of things working in his favor. First of all, we have heard that Bill Belichick may not be the coach next year. Take that for what it's worth. Who knows if that'll happen? But it would make a lot of sense because we've seen them become one of the worst teams in the NFL this year and steadily just plummet downhill ever since Tom Brady left. We also know there's a very good chance that the Patriots have a new quarterback next year. Okay, it's pretty much a foregone conclusion, but that it could be one of the top prospects from this year's class. Bottom line, this offense has to be better because it can't get worse. A new coach, probably an offensive-minded coach, a top prospect as a rookie quarterback. This team's going to also want to keep running the ball to protect whoever their quarterback is. But the other thing is, I don't think they're drafting a running back because they need a quarterback. They definitely need wide receivers, a lot of wide receivers, and they're going to need some offensive linemen as well. RB is not top of this team's priority list. This is not the type of team that has ever gone out in free agency and paid money for running backs either. So we could see Mondre as the one. Kevin Harris stays there with his experience, gets the job as the two. That means at the very least you get a high-end handcuff for Mondre Stevenson, and maybe he could be the 1B even. And it's not often I will recommend stashing a tight end, but here's a guy I still am not giving up on. It was a lost season for Greg Dulcich in Denver, and who knows if he'll even come back at all this year. He's had foot injury, hamstring injuries, has done nothing. He only appeared in 2 games and didn't do a whole lot in those games. So we have to remember that this is a prospect who was known to be a pass-catching tight end, a guy who has some ability with the ball in his hands to make plays. We didn't see it this year at all because of those injuries, but as a rookie, he had 33 catches, 411 yards, and 2 touchdowns. This offense really could use a playmaker at tight end because they've been rolling with Adam Troutman, who's kind of just the Sean Payton guy brought over from the Saints. Hadn't done much as a receiver. That's an element they've been missing. Troutman is a free agent as well. Look, they'll probably bring somebody else in or keep Troutman there, but he's more of a blocker. So Dulcich, if he has a healthy offseason, he works his way into Peyton's favor, maybe we'll see him finally bloom. And then let me throw out a real flyer here at running back. I want to look at a Dolphins RB who is a rookie that you probably didn't even know was still on the roster. That's rookie Chris Brooks, who played at Cal, but then ended up at BYU. Brooks impressed the coaching staff enough that they let Myles Gaskin go in the preseason, and they were rolling with him instead. Brooks looked great in the preseason, one of the leading rushers in terms of average, earned his roster spot, could have got some run here if not for the fact that he got hurt, and Devon Achane looked amazing when he first played. So you look at this running back room, and they got the guy who's leading the league in touchdowns, Raheem Mostert, the one who's leading the league in yards per carry in Achane, and then just Mike McDaniel's favorite standby, Jeff Wilson. But let's face it, Wilson has struggled to even stay healthy this season. He's old. Raheem Mostert, props to him for what he did this year. But he's going to be 32 next year, and there are so many more examples of him not staying healthy than staying healthy. It's almost a minor miracle he's still going this year. And as great as Achane has been in spots, we've also seen him pop up with multiple injuries. If Chris Brooks manages to stay on this Dolphins roster heading into next season, could be a super big sleeper because he just needs that opportunity. This team will use multiple running backs as well. If you play in Dynasty fantasy leagues, you know the season never ends. We're going to keep you covered with everything you need to know as far as pickups, trades, and strategy all off season long.